All right, so today, January 12th of 2022, Happy New Year, everybody. This is actually our first presentation back for the new year. We took a break for a couple weeks after the listing agreement. I am recording these sessions, so if you guys are getting my emails, closer to the bottom of the email, you will see a link to subscribe to the channel, to the YouTube channel. There's also be a slide on it here today, closer to the end of the presentation, okay? My name is Alex Alanis, and I'm not an attorney or an accountant, so I'm just simply sharing this information with my friends and family and anybody who's interested in terms of just trying to better their situation, and that's what I'm concerned about. I certainly don't charge for this. This is just something I shared for the community. And I actually will be approaching high schools and that kind of thing. Anyone that wants to get into real estate, I will be a 33-year veteran next month. So just to date myself, I started in February of 1988. And so I think that's 33 years if my numbers are right. But anyway, that said, I know that most of you have busy lives, so let's get started, okay? We will start with our normal bumper information. This is my information: phone number, email address, website address. Although currently the website address is down, I'm doing some maintenance to it and adding some things to it. And so I'm hoping to have that up in the next couple of months. Just really haven't had time. I mute you guys on my side, but as always, I really don't necessarily enjoy doing a monologue. I would rather have a dialogue, meaning that I would rather be talking with you guys about any questions you might have or comments. And so feel free to chime in anytime or just raise your hand on the chat. And I'll try to get to your questions and or answer your questions. Also, you can use the chat box at any time to do the same. But I mute you guys on my side just to avoid any distractions, dogs, passing trucks, babies crying, that kind of thing. So if and when you do chime in, please mute yourself again. That way we can not have any of those distractions, okay? I would appreciate that, all right? And as I mentioned, at the end of each slide, I try to get to the questions, and you're welcome to use the chat room at any time, okay? Thank you guys for logging in early. Actually, this is a pretty good group. At 6:04, a lot of times I'm getting folks logging in like at 6:10 or what have you, because we go through this little bumper section of the presentation, and so most of them are usually not interested in seeing that, right? So that said, I'm still getting people logging in, but thank you guys for logging in early nevertheless, okay? And as always, these presentations are free. The YouTube channel, if you subscribe, are also free. You're welcome to envision those as well. I believe to date there are 24 of those presentations that are on the YouTube channel now. There are some complete sections. The new RPA I will be working on in the coming months, but I will tell you that reading the new RPA, and I'm now going on my second time of going through it, there's not that many changes to it in terms of what we're used to seeing and expecting on the contract. There are a few additions in terms of home hardening. There are some additions in terms of explanation. So some of the areas of the RPA that we would see that were kind of short, like 10B, which is now 11H of the contract. I'm sorry, 12B was tax withholding, and there was only 2 lines. Well, now it's a whole paragraph, and it's because it's explaining what it didn't explain before. So the RPA itself has changed in the way that it looks, right? but it hasn't necessarily changed in what it says in terms of what we usually expect to see. So that'll be interesting to go over that. I just have to think about how I'm going to present that, because this is the reason why I did the 6 presentations of the old one, so we can see the new changes and we can address those in the new one. Now, I was hoping to do the home hardening, the defensible home hardening and reporting in a separate presentation, and I probably will still do that, but that was one of the additions on the new RPA, because it just started to be required in September of 2021. And just so you guys know, on an NHD report, if you guys see a home that it's in a very high fire severity zone, you need to call the fire department, and there's a website that you would apply for this. You would call the fire department and you would request this inspection and report. And that's pretty much all it is. It's pretty much just disclosure to the buyer. There may be some remedies, but primarily it's just reporting. And that is something that's required on those high severity zone properties. So that's something that actually was added to the RPA that I saw. So I did send out the new RPA for all of you guys to see. I believe all of you guys are on my email that I send out. If you didn't get a copy of that, all you have to do is go on to the zip forms and it's there, because it actually went active December 15th, which is coming up on a month already. And I've already seen a couple of my transactions that I've opened, and transactions that have been agreed to and executed are on the new RPA. And I'll be honest with you, I like it. I like being able to look at the summary page and that kind of thing. But that said, I know everybody's kind of getting excited about the new RPA. Take some time to read it, guys. It's very important that you guys read that, because you will be representing yourself as knowing that contract when you meet up with your clients. Okay. So anyway, any questions or comments so far? All right. So today, like I said, it's a little bit of a brain teaser. And I will need and want some participation when we get to a certain point. Okay. And there's a method to my madness. Okay. But in this session, we will learn why you're here. In other words, why are you here as a real estate agent? Why are you here in terms of this presentation? Why do you do what you do? And it's not necessarily a question, but we'll cover as to what my interpretation is, and you guys can obviously comment on any of that. Okay. A very good practice that actually I learned in church, faith versus reality. And it does apply to what we do. Okay, so that's a very good exercise that I've always been fond of. Then we get into some definitions, right? In terms of motivation, in terms of attitude, what is success, how and what is profit, right? Then that's when we'll get into our board class participation. And at that point, I would request that everyone unmute yourself, and then we'll just kind of go through the class and we'll get some answers on that, okay? We'll go through the qualities of top producers, into what I call rituals, and what we should ritualistically be doing every single day. And it coincides with what a top producer would do. Now, not that every one of you wants to be a top producer, because some people aren't interested in that. But if you inhale some of those qualities, you will potentially just meet your goals, right? Because nobody's telling you to be a top producer, but if we know what the top is doing, we can inch in on that a little bit. And as long as we mimic what it is that we're doing, we'll get similar results. And I got into a little bit into estimated time to be an expert. And you'll see why I got into that. I won't mention too much about that. And then we'll get into something that I had mentioned maybe 5 or 6 presentations ago, and I couldn't remember who the actor was who said this, but it was a military movie where he was like a boot camp sergeant. And he said this, and I was just really impressed by it. It was improvise, overcome, and adapt. It was Clint Eastwood, and I couldn't remember the actor. And man, I was killing myself that day, you know, when I was trying to remember who it was. But I remember his face vividly, but I just couldn't remember his name, right? But it was Clint Eastwood, duh, right? But improvise, overcome, and adapt. And some of you might remember that movie that he was on. I don't remember what it was called, but which is really not important. But what's important was the message. He was teaching these guys how to improvise, overcome, and adapt. And we'll apply that today, okay? And then obviously we have practical versus actual application and the explanations of that. And then obviously what we do, because it's the beginning of the year, we'll be going into the technical versus tactical training and some other practical applications when it comes to those things, okay? So that's what this presentation will be covering today. Any questions or comments before we get started? All right, so everybody's settled in, got their coffee. So let's get started, because this is somewhat of a brain teaser and some of you might lose some sleep over this. So I do apologize ahead of time, okay? So the first brain teaser, right? Why are you here? Okay, so I put up a funny on this one because I found this funny in my search for funnies, because you know I like to do that. And I thought this kind of applied to what we were talking about here. So here you have a husband and wife at a bookstore, and I asked for a book on self-sufficiency, and he told me to get it myself. Right? So so I thought that was pretty funny. So you know, yeah, you know, we're trying to be self-sufficient, but at the same time, why are you here? And you guys can chime in at any time, because, you know, sometimes there are opposing arguments to some of these theories, if you will, on what it is that we're talking about. So I'm giving you my peace of mind, and please don't become an Alex Cloney. But at the end of the day, these are things that I think will tickle our brains enough to think about it, right? So that's the important part. Let's challenge it enough to tickle our brains to just think about it. And really what I'm after is for us to be able to idea generate. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm not here to necessarily help. I'm here to inspire, encourage, train, and challenge you to be self-sufficient and successful, right? The primary purpose, what is the most important thing in life? So it is a question, so any of you guys can answer that if you want, because I do get a lot of different answers, okay? But in terms of what we're talking about, and again, because we are here for real estate purposes, right? The most important thing in life, and this flows over really to our personal lives, is necessity and survival, right? Because without survival, there is no life. Necessity becomes, or just need, because a lot of us talk about what we want, right? But really, it's what we need. And the majority of us need shelter, food, and water. Those things, most of the time, cost money for most of us. And so we decided to take a career path in real estate. So why are we here? We're here because we need something to sustain that, to survive. The secondary purpose is the motivation for most of us to act. So what is the motivation for most of us to act? So our first motivation typically, and this comes to us as children, is just to be happy. You know, we're always wanting to be happy, right? There was a time when the Ethiopian people were starving. Some said that feeding them would not actually help. The solution was to show them how to grow and sustain their own food supply. So allow me to ask, why are you here? Why did you get out of bed this morning? Most of us got up this morning because we knew whatever it was that we were going to do was going to potentially make us happy. But for the most part, it was for survival. Most of us are forced to work because of responsibilities, dependents, household needs, and of course, things we want. The gauge of what you have is based on how much you work and produce or profit. Its limits are based on your imagination. Some say it's better to work smart rather than hard. What do you say? So any questions or comments on that? So why are we here? The gist of this slide is that we need to be happy, for lack of a better word. So again, some of you may disagree with that or agree, whether you do or not. It definitely tickles the brain enough to think about it. So any questions or comments on that slide? Why are you here? So let's move on to a bigger brain teaser, man. This is like one of my favorites. So let's take 2 pots, add soil and seeds to both. Let's water one of them and pray the other to the other in hopes that they would grow. So here's the question. Which is faith and which is reality? So if some of you guys can chime in on the chat, but you're welcome to unmute. The pot on the left, if we put a seed in there and soil and we pray to it, and then the other one we actually water, which is faith and which is reality? Anybody?
Faith
Left
would be
is
the
faith.
one where
Okay, I'm sorry,
faith
Victoria,
would be
go
the one
ahead.
not watering.
Go ahead.
As if faith would be the one where you just don't water it.
Okay, so faith would be the one. So Victoria's choice was faith would be the one that the one. So meaning that the one on the right is reality, right? That's Victoria's choice. Okay, so
Yes.
so actually, Celia said the same thing. Reality is watering the plant, right? Larry, you were going to chime in.
No, I was saying the one on the left here. That's faith. I mean, you're hoping for it to grow, so no sweat.
Okay, thank you guys for your input, because it's important on this exercise, this particular one, okay, because it's a little tricky to understand, but there is a really good ending purpose to understanding this. Okay, there are 3 answers, but only one illustrates the point. Okay, some will say the one on the left is faith, others will say the one on the right is reality. Which if you say the one on the left is faith, obviously the one on the right you think is reality, right? A savant will say both, and that's the 3rd answer. So that's interesting, right? A little brain teaser on that one. In reality, if you do not water a seed, it will not grow. We have faith in the seed, soil, water, and sunlight, that when functioning properly, the seed will grow into a flower. So do you guys get where I'm going with this? In reality, if you do not water a seed, it will not grow. So it doesn't matter what I do. If I pray, if I do a rain dance, an Indian rain dance, if I do smoke signals, in reality, it just won't grow, right? So that's reality, the one on the left. The one on the right is faith. I have faith in the seed, in the soil, in the water, and the sunlight. When functioning properly, the seed will grow into a flower. That's faith. I have faith that will happen. So understand, if we plug that into what we're talking about in real estate, all of the things around us are already there. We just have to have faith in them. We can't sit there and pray, please, please give me a client. We can't do that. That's not reality. Does that make sense? So Ken said something here. If you've done all that, you can do the increase is the one on the right. I'm not sure I understand, Mr. Ken. You want to clarify that, or?
Gives me It just means if you've done the foundation work of planting the seed and watering it, you're expecting photosynthesis to exist and the flower and the plant to grow.
Yeah,
But if
and the
you
word
do
the word
nothing
that you
on the
use,
level left,
yeah, the word that you use, you expect it to grow, that's faith.
that's right. That's what I'm expecting it to grow on the right. I've done all that I can do. And I'm expecting
Exactly,
I've done
exactly.
all that I can do.
And you have faith that everything else will fall into place, right? We're
Correct.
certainly not praying to allow it to happen. Okay, so actually slide 2 delves into this a little bit more. The moral of this example is simple. We cannot hope or pray our way into prosperity. This is a selfish activity, hoping that the powers that be bring us what we need, when in reality, it is already there. We must harness and gather it and have faith that it works. And of course, be thankful that it's there at all. That's heavy, man. That's heavy. And I'll tell you, every time I see this, I never get enough of reading it. That's why it's 2 slides. So I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I do, because you know it really turns around. And I'll be honest with you, I can visualize the real estate business, and I know people that just sit there and pray at their potted seed. I know people that do that. It drives me crazy. And I bet you guys know people like that too. But you also know people that work their ass off and do whatever they can to get business. Those are the guys on the right. So I'm simply plugging it into what the real purpose of this brain teaser is. Certainly not to insult anybody's religious beliefs, okay? Because that's not the purpose of this exercise. The simple purpose of this exercise is to illustrate that it's already been given to us. It's already there. So anyway, I really like that one. So I hope you guys enjoyed that one too. Let's keep moving. Any questions or comments on that? Thank you for chiming in too, Ken. I appreciate that. So okay, so quality looking manager. Let's start with our definition of motivation. And I actually learned this some years back. I used to work for Kragen Auto Parts, which was late 80s. And I learned this in something that was called an assessment center. And they said, did you know that nothing short of threatening your life can truly motivate you to do anything? So now we're trying to define motivation, right? But there's really nothing that can motivate you other than maybe putting a gun in your head, right? There might be some other things like, you know, like threatening others as well, but it's kind of the same thing. So here's the definition. A desire held in expectation with the belief that it will be realized. A desire held in expectation with the belief that it will be realized. Putting into reality that which you want. So that's what motivates us. Earlier we talked about being happy. If being happy is one or even just having necessity, right? If needing things is what motivates us, that is our desire. We're holding our need and expectation, right? And whatever it is that we're doing, we believe that it will work. Just like what we talked about in the potted plants, that everything's in place, right? That it will actually happen. That's what motivates us, not putting a gun to our head. But that's self-motivation, right? Putting a gun to our head is somebody else trying to motivate us. Yes? The person that says I can or I can't is 100% correct all of the time. We are motivated by the end result instead of the method of achieving it. Now, it's important to understand most of us look at a real estate transaction as a number, and usually that number is our commission check, right? What we should be motivated to be doing is the process that got us there. Because each and every one of us have gotten a transaction and we've closed it. And yes, the end result is the motivation. But what I'm asking you guys to do is visualize the motivation, right? Visualize the desire in the process, in the method. How was it that you got there? If you concentrate on that, it will happen more often. And ultimately also the end result, which was the original motivation. So certainly not being presumptuous in the fact that that is your actual motivation, but I would say that it holds true for me. So, you know, I would say that the majority of folks are probably the same. So here are two types of motivation, right? Fear. You don't do your work. I'm sorry. You don't do your job, you're fired. So there's an example of a type of motivation, right? Here's another one. What are the two common fears? And it's falling and loud noise. And actually those two things we fear early on as babies. Those are the two primal fears. Now, there could be a lot of other phobias that we get and fears, right? But those are the two primal fears. But they're also motivating factors, since we're on the motivation definition. Incentive, do your job right and you can keep it. So you can kind of see how all this ties in, right? All of these things kind of interlock into motivating us to doing things. But we can still focus on the method. If you focus on the method, you rely less on your fears and more on the liking what it is that you do. And then attitude is the vehicle of motivation. Recognizes good or bad. And the majority of us sometimes get motivated, and sometimes the motivation is in a negative fashion of actually, hey, I'm motivated to get away from this person. Well, quite frankly, because they had a bad attitude. Does that make sense? So guess what? The part of our method should be in having a good attitude. So it just happens to be the vehicle of motivation. It actually is showing what our motivation is, right? All of us can kind of mind read, if you will. If you're talking to somebody, you know what their attitude is, and you can almost kind of guess what their motivation is sometimes. Or maybe you're wondering what their motivation is, but actually it's attitude. So what I'm simply asking you to do is look in the mirror and wonder what your attitude is and how you're projecting yourself, because people are then going to understand your motivation. A lot of times your motivation is going to be viewed as good or bad. So these are the things that I wanted to share with you guys. One of them that I had learned at an assessment center. But any questions or comments on that? So we started off with why are you here? Motivation is part of it, but it just happens to be the vehicle. You have an attitude in the morning and you are motivated to get out of bed every day, right? And do what you do. And there may be things that are motivating you to do the opposite. You simply have control of that. And that has to do with the method. So if you know that you got up at a certain time and that's how you were able to get some listings, then guess what? Love that method. So that's the takeaway on motivation. Any questions or comments on that? Oh, well, yeah, I forgot about goal setting. Goal setting is the most powerful method of motivation. So obviously we'll actually be talking about that a little bit more in coming slides. But in terms of things that will get you motivated is to be able to visualize what it is that you need to do, and really putting that method in writing. What did it take to get to a certain point? Well, you write it down. Mr. Larry?
Yeah, is this part of the why and the motivation that you're going to get into, or no?
This is the only slide that I have on motivation. It's really more of a definition.
Okay.
Um,
I'm looking for it because part of motivation, what your motivation is the why that you create to do what you do. Without a strong why, no matter what you come up with, you're not motivated for that. So that's why I'm asking.
and that actually is the goal setting, right? That would be the why.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
and I didn't want to go in such a narrow sense. I want it to be more of a broader sense in terms of the method, because there could be a lot of different things that we do that actually got us to the point that we needed to be, to motivate us to get us where we wanted to be. It could be working out, it could be your diet, it could be your work regimen, like how many hours you work in the day. It could be where you go and who you talk to. It's all of those different things combined. So I didn't want to narrow it down to just one or two things. It could be a lot of different things. So in a broader sense, it has to do with the method, right? So whatever it is that you're doing that was successful, simply repeat it and write it down in terms of goal setting. And that's where Larry had mentioned in terms of the why, right? It allows you to visualize why you are doing what you're doing and the method. We all call it goal setting or just goals, right? But if you write it down, it's easier to visualize. Thank you, Mr. Larry. Was there any other questions or comments? All right, so let's keep moving here. We're on slide 8, 633. You're doing pretty good. So we're moving on to attitude now, right? So this is the definition, right, of attitude. Anything you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass. If you can think it and believe it can happen. You know what? It's funny. Like I have it up here, and it's hard to read. So forgive me. Allow me to just read it. Right? If you can think it and believe it can happen, if you act on it, it will happen. And so goes the definition, right? But it's an attitude. It's an attitude, but it's also a method. It goes back to the whole like Larry said, why, right? But if you're putting down or you're writing down your goals, right? You've already imagined them, meaning that you thought about it, right? If you believe it can happen, means it sounds realistic. And obviously you put it to play, so you've acted on it, more than likely it will happen. And that is simply just going back to the potted plant exercise that we planted the seed in soil in a pot, we put it out in the sun, we watered it, we acted on it, we understood that doing all of these things, eventually plants will grow. And that's because that's what we expect. And that's what we believe. That is simply just a way to plug in that exercise. By setting goals or plans for those same items along with increased knowledge and determination, I will not be denied. The results will almost always reach your expectations. Keeping an open mind helps with acquisition of good ideas. It is a beginning of what is possible. Desire and action follow close behind. And this is where it gets interesting. Doesn't this sound dangerously close to the behavior of a child? If you look at what kids do, this is what they do. They will play with the weirdest things and really believe that it's for real. And oddly enough, sometimes, right, because some of those things are very imaginary, those things actually do come to pass. So I thought that was interesting. Any thoughts on that? I thought that was interesting illustration. And again, the majority of these concepts I learned in other places, whether it be a book, a seminar, a class that I took or something like that. So I'm simply sharing those things with you guys and taking away the nuggets, if you will. But I thought that that last comment was fairly insightful. Doesn't this dangerously sound like the behavior of a child, right? So focus on what you really want in your life. Focus on it from the state that it has already been achieved. The brain can't tell the difference between your imagining and what is real. It can't. If you're simply thinking it, right, and you've already achieved it in your mind, it's already happened. Whatever you focus on, you move towards. So if your mind is pondering on something and you're focusing on it for a certain level of time, right, it typically will move you towards it. And that is something that some of you guys may have seen. It's called The Secret. Kind of talks about. So don't focus on what you fear, focus on what you want or need. I probably should have put that on there, okay? But that is a little excerpt, if you will, on your attitude. The first couple lines and the last couple lines almost interlock, because it's talking about generating good ideas. So that's your vivid imagination, right? And you have to want it bad enough, because if you don't want it bad enough, you know, it's just, you're not motivated, right? If you obviously, if you're motivated enough and you've imagined it and you enthusiastically act upon it, it should move you towards that. And like, again, it kind of interlocks on the last sentence. Focus on what you want. If you focus on those things, it simply makes you, you know, we all know the guy that we see maybe playing the violin out in front of Walmart or something, right? Well, that's what he vividly imagined and ardently desired, right? So there he is playing the violin in front of Walmart. But it goes along with, that's what he wanted to do. Maybe that includes his necessity in terms of need, right? Because I don't think anybody really wants to do that, but there he was, right? So just to give an example, any questions or comments on that? So now let's define success. So here's the definition: daily progression towards worthwhile predetermined goals. So Larry had mentioned about the why and how we kind of interlock that into actually just setting goals and writing them out, right? The goals that you see in the pie graph are some of the things that some of us will actually look at and set goals for, right? So it's a daily progression towards worthwhile predetermined goals. Because how can we succeed at anything unless we know what it is? That simply means that they're predetermined, right? And how can we succeed at anything unless, of course, the success only takes 10 minutes. That's why it says that it's a daily progression. Because obviously, and let's just use an example in real estate. If we're trying to get a listing, right? And remember, I talked about loving the method in which I got the listing. If I'm simply doing those things every day, that's the daily progression, right? Because my goal is to get a listing, my daily progression becomes the methods in which to get the listing. So daily progression toward worthwhile predetermined goals. Make sense? Some of us fly blindly doing tasks all day with a reactionary response. We act mostly on what comes up during the day. phone calls, emails, text messages, and even lunch can distract us from what we really want to do, finish during the day. Does that make sense? The majority of us, a lot of times, we rely on the things that are happening, so we become very reactionary. The art of being proactive, meaning to take care of it before it is actually required to be completed, requires some creativity. The progression towards worthwhile predetermined goals becomes the residual effect or the product of your foresight. Meaning that we're taking care of the things that we know we need to do ahead of time. And we're not being reactionary to our day. We're not following our email list, like if it's a to-do list, because that wasn't a to-do list that we made. If we're getting emails from someone else, that's a to-do list that someone else made. You should be the one sending the emails out. Hey, I need this, right? This graph illustrates 6 areas of our lives that you can be goal-oriented. When taking a proactive approach to enhance each of their success, the results are easily apparent. So when we talk about daily progression, let's plug one in. Our physical, let's use physical or daily progression, right? You know, you see all these commercials, they talk about, oh, you know, if you do 10 minutes of this and 50 minutes of that, you'll be all healthy and you'll have a 6-pack and, you know, you'll be all buff and fit in your clothes and all that good stuff, right? Well, that is a daily progression. That's something that you have to do daily. It's a method and a ritual that you have to do daily. So plugging that in, we can plug in finances, right? A lot of us have to save in order to retire. That's a daily progression. And we have a predetermined goal of a certain amount of money so that we can retire. And so on and so forth. You can plug in any of the items in the pie graph and simply just plug in your ability to succeed on any one of those things. So again, another brain teaser. Any questions or comments on that? I think that one wasn't as confusing as maybe some of the other ones, but this one's a little more straightforward. But in terms of success, it's the daily progression. It's that daily ritual. It's the method. Love the method in which you are feeling that something that you're going to be able to reach your goal. Questions, comments? No? Okay. Moving right along here. Let's move on to profit. And I don't remember if I probably, let me read it first and then I'll say what I need to say. Okay, so this is an actual true statement. Okay, so picture your own idea of success. Okay, imagine a busy, lucrative workday. Now, the reason why I say that each and every one of you is doing this now, each and every one of you have chosen real estate as your career choice. Okay, what that means is that you're self-employed. Most of us are self-employed. And what that means is that you are also the CEO of your own company. So imagine a busy, lucrative workday. You're the CEO of your own company or business. So this is you guys, okay? What is your expectation about the business and its employees? It is ultimately the expectation of any employer or business venture, even nonprofits. Can anybody tell me what that is? What is the expectation? What is your expectation, right, of every single business or even nonprofit? What anybody? The expectation is profit. That's the expectation. And now that I'm saying that to you, guess what? And I'm talking to you, 10 of you or 9 of you, right? Or 8 of you. Am I right about that? Is that what you want for your business? That is the expectation, right, Adrian?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, exactly, right? So thank you for admitting that. Ultimately, you know, we can go warm and fuzzy with other things like, oh, you know, I wanna a treadmill in my office and I want this other stuff, right? But you can't do any of those things without profit. Profit is the number one expectation. And the reason why I say even for nonprofits, which it's a contradiction of terms, but even nonprofits need to profit in order to do their community service, in order to do their philanthropy. They have to be able to profit in some way, right? So this is why profit is like the number one motivational, I don't know if it's a tool, but it's definitely something that motivates every single one of us. To obtain a financial advantage or benefit. So here's the definition, right? A financial gain, especially the difference between the amount earned and the amount spent in buying, operating, or producing something. To obtain a financial advantage or benefit, especially from an investment. Now, most of what we talk about is personal investing, and that kind of goes along with the pie graph that we saw in the last slide. Okay, but nothing, and I mean nothing, exists in terms of inanimate objects. Okay, and I'm not talking about people or animals or things that are alive. Okay, but even some of those things will fall into this category. But nothing that you see around you or that you can touch or even eat, every single thing has profit built into it. Every single thing. There has been not one person that has ever told me, oh, hey, Alex, what about this? This doesn't have profit built into it. And I'll say, no, even that has profit built into it. So I don't know, does anybody happen to have something that they know that doesn't have profit built into it? And that's because it's required in order to survive. And again, this is why we're here. So you guys are welcome to chime in. Not that I'm challenging you. I want to know. I want to know if there's something. Am I wrong about this? Am I wrong about profit? Every single thing has profit built into it. Any questions or comments on that one? Well, I'll tell you, I get excited about this presentation because it takes a lot of thought and energy, if you will, to talk about this stuff. And I know sometimes some of these things are hard to hear, and a lot of times you're kind of like, wow, I don't know if I can do all this. We all can do it, and we all do it, and we do it to a certain level. Most of us get in a nice little comfort zone. I kind of want to pick you guys up in honor of you, pick you guys up to do better. And that was kind of what I had said on one of the first slides. Oh, so let's do a quick funny. So we don't want just a bunch of yes men around here, right? So one guy says right, the other says you said it, and absolutely. This is a good one. We offer 3 kinds of service: good, cheap, and fast. You pick any 2. Good service, cheap, won't be fast. Good service, fast, won't be cheap. Fast service, cheap, won't be good. So I'll let you guys ponder on that for just a second. I'm gonna wet my whistle, but when you read that, that's hilarious because it's kind of true. You can plug that in. Fast service, cheap, won't be good. That's fast food, guys, right? Good service, fast, won't be cheap. That's what you call a rush. How many of us, what does Saya say? You get what you pay for. Yeah, exactly. but think about it. Good service, fast, won't be cheap. You know how many times I hear this? Oh yeah, we ordered the appraisal on a rush. And that's because, we need an appraisal. Well, most appraisers are licensed, and it's a 30-page document and it's got to be done properly. But if you're asking them to do it fast, guess what? You got to pay more money. It won't be cheap. And then good service, cheap, won't be fast. Yeah, if you want to pay less, for good service, it's going to take some time. So this isn't only just funny, but it's real. That's probably what makes it so funny to me anyway. So anyway, any questions or comments on that? Thank you, Celia. Okay, so I wet my whistle because we're gonna do some talking. So if you guys can do me a favor, and I would like everyone to unmute. And I'll wait for you guys to do that. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Larry.
Yeah, I'm there.
Thank you guys for unmuting. So what I'd like to do, okay, Celia, okay, now we got everybody unmuted, okay? So this is what I'd like to do. I'm gonna go around the room, one person at a time. Miss Karen, you muted up again. I think I might start with you.
No, I have to, you know, close the door.
Oh, okay.
Because, we have somebody at home.
Right on, right on. I'm messing with you. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go around the room, okay, one at a time, and I'll call your name. And I want you to think about what a quality of a good manager is. Okay, and it could be anything. And no answer is really incorrect. Okay, so this isn't like a thing where I'm looking for the right answer. It's not that at all. Okay, I'm simply just looking for what you think a good manager, and primarily the person we're talking about is you. Okay, what is it that would make you a good manager? So again, there's no wrong answer, unless of course you're telling me that being a sneaky person is a quality of a good manager. Then I'm going to disagree with you. Okay, so let's start with Adrian. Adrian, what's a quality of a good manager? I'm sorry?
I'd say knowledgeable.
Okay, knowledgeable, that's a good one. Okay, Karen, what's a quality of a good manager?
The one word or what?
It could be anything.
Oh, well, being a good manager, trust myself and keep, you know, effort on to be able to, you know, improve, associate, which is me.
So okay,
myself.
let me translate what I think I'm hearing. Okay, it's faith in yourself. Would that kind of say what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Okay, so okay, let's move on to Larry. What's the quality of a good manager, sir?
Patience, good motivator, and hold you to
Well,
accountability.
just one.
Okay, motivator.
Oh, you want to go with motivated?
Yeah, motivator.
Okay. Which I will translate to energetic.
Okay.
Okay, who's next? Victoria.
Definitely somebody who's a good communicator.
Okay, communicator, that's a good one. Okay, and I don't know, Adrian got moved here, so let's go with Celia. What's the quality of a good manager?
Honest, to be honest.
Honest? Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Okay. Okay, and then Ken.
Lead by example.
Okay, leading by example. That's a good one. Okay. Sharon.
Accountable.
Okay, accountable. That's a good one. Okay, Robert and Robert. So is Sully with you, or are you guys together?
Yeah, we're together.
Okay, so let's do one at a time. What do you say, Robert? What's the quality of a good manager?
Be available.
Okay, available. Okay, Sully, what would you say?
I would like open doors.
Okay, so be approachable.
Yes.
Okay, approachable. Okay, so let's go around the room one more time. Okay, I think Adrian was up first.
Oh man, they took all the good.
Oh, wait till you see what I have on the next slide. But think about it. There's all kinds of stuff that you do on pretty much on a daily basis, all kinds of stuff that make you manage your life good, or let's just say properly, right?
I like that. I don't know.
How about if I do one, right?
Mhm.
How about this? How's this sound? Do you guys looking at the screen? How about that one? Right? So Adrian, did you come up with anything?
You know, maybe geez. I had thought honestly.
I'll give you a little hint here, okay? There's something that you do every single day, right? There's something you do every single day to your teeth.
Polish, I don't know. Polish skills.
Structure.
Oh,
Structure.
pressure.
Oh,
You
no,
really,
no.
you literally mean that?
Would that be a quality of a good manager? Okay. Okay.
IG.
What about you, Ken?
Yeah, you see him every day, face to face, yes. Es algo de idea to brush your teeth.
Well, I would say that's a quality of a good manager. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'm sorry. So Sully, do you have another one?
I like somebody that has the answers.
So
Yeah,
okay,
Knowledgeable.
that's knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
Dress well.
Okay, Robert, you said dress well.
Dress for success.
Right on. Okay, Larry, what about you?
Hold you accountable.
I think that's there already. Accountable.
Is that all right? Okay. Open door, answer your phone. Develop good habits.
So
That's what you brush your teeth.
So let's call that rituals,
Okay.
right? Good
Yes.
habits. Celia.
Attention to detail.
Okay, detail oriented. Yeah, like that's a good one.
I'm in the last to leave.
Who do we miss? Victoria.
Put in there. Put in there.
You did get me, but maybe
Did I
to
get you
add
twice
something else.
already?
Yeah, well, no, not twice. You got me once. Let me do somebody that's positive.
Okay.
You don't want to work with a negative Nancy.
Positive. That's I would say that's a quality of a good manager. Although I spelled it wrong.
The first one to come and the last to leave.
Which would be hardworking.
Yes.
Okay, that's quality of a good manager.
Open to constructive feedback.
We're starting to flow here. I'm not even calling names. What'd you say, Ken?
Open to constructive feedback.
So open-minded.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else?
Approachable.
I think we got that up there already.
Organized.
Oh, that's a good one. Good job, Robert.
Yes.
Fair.
Fair. Okay, that's a good one. Anyone else?
There.
Anyone else going to chime in? That's a pretty good list, right?
Punctuality.
Ooh. You guys are testing my my spelling abilities here. Nice to know that I got a spell checker. All right, so that's a pretty good list, right, guys? Qualities of a good manager. This is what our manager looks like, right? Knowledgeable, faith in yourself, motivated, a good communicator, honest, leads by example, is accountable, is available, approachable, answers the phone, brushes their teeth, dresses well, is ritualistic. And we talked about in terms of methods. Yes, Mr. Ken, thank you for chiming in, okay? We'll talk to you next time. We're positive, hardworking. Did you have another one, Sully?
Yeah, respectful.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, respectful. Especially the women, right? The women like respectful men. And they're fair. So now let me show you guys what I came up with over the years. And you notice how we kind of got stuck a little bit to limiting ourselves to 2 answers. Some of us give a little bit more, but at the end of the day, some of you may want to take a picture of this and actually read them and go through them, right? Because we start to realize that there's so much more, and it was actually hard for us to think about right away. Some of these things we actually said on the Word document, right? But these are all qualities of a good manager. We're on time, knowledgeable, we dress well with good hygiene, we're proactive, motivated, faithful, trustful, self-sustaining, self-restraint. Kind of goes along with respectful, right? Customer oriented, diligent, charitable, temperate, patient, kind, has humility, answers phone and emails, thorough, healthy, obeys the law, tests theories, curious, thoughtful, chastity, integrity, legitimate, dependable, optimistic, confident, calm, flexible, organized, good communicator, listens. And you'll notice that some of these we actually said on our list, right? Is specific, team player, respect, collaborates, values others, gives feedback, purposeful culture, positively contagious. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but we've all been around people that just are so positive, it's contagious, right? And usually that's laughter. Focused, empathetic, honest, accountable, effective, decision maker, responsible, creative, committed, delegates, has vision, has leadership, experience, time management, reliability, mentorship, ambassadorship, appreciation, profitable, poised, diplomatic or diplomacy, resourceful, productive, transparent, promotes, inspires, demonstrates, strategic, enthusiastic, and that's just to name a few. I can probably find more. Some of you guys might want to actually take a picture of that, although again, this is being recorded, so you guys can always go and reference it later on. But you know, we start to pick up on things that we're not doing. And when we're talking about qualities of a good manager, don't we all want to be a good manager in our own businesses?
Yeah.
I'm going to mute you guys again. Okay, sorry. We want to be good managers in our own business. And again, you guys are the CEO of your own business, and the number one thing that you want is profit. We all need to chime in on the majority of these things. And I'll be honest with you, most of us do carry a lot of these qualities. Some of them maybe not so much. So those are the things we can work on. But if you look at everything as a whole, if you look at somebody that is really truly successful, the majority of time they're carrying most of these qualities. So this is the reason why I wanted to illustrate this. Good exercise, guys. Any questions or comments on that? All right. Good participation. Thank you. I appreciate that. So now we'll get into the rituals of things. So rituals to follow. Okay, these are qualities of a top producer, right? You make a commitment. That's true really about anything. If you want to be the top of anything, you have to be committed. You have to be responsible. You must practice qualities of a good manager. And that was the last slide. Okay. This is probably another slide that you may want to take a picture of when it's done. Also, again, you can always also reference it on the recording. Love what you do. So again, love the method, not the conclusion. Yeah, we all love to get the commission check. We all do. I get it. Okay. But if you love the method, love what you do, and be relentless and exhaustive at it, the residual effect is that commission check. Treat your career choice like a job. A lot of us, because we're the CEO of our company, you know, hey, we're dragging into the office late. We leave early. take long lunches. You know, we're the CEO of our company, right? But the majority of us are not, you know, a top 100 company. We are actually barely paying the bills. If that's the case, we have to go back to being relentless and exhausted. Treat your career like a job. Spend 8 to 10 hours a day or more doing that job. That's part of your commitment. Be consistent and persistent. This is the key. When I say consistent, I mean you're loving the method of what it is that you're doing. You're constantly doing it and you're being consistent and persistent. Pick something and stick to it. I always use the example of a runner, okay? If you're going to be a good runner, you always have to run and you have to do it often. You have to do it for long periods of time. The only way to get to that point is to be consistent and to be persistent. Make a plan, right? This goes back to what Mr. Larry was saying. Why? We set goals, long and short term. Write it down. You can visualize what you're looking at. You can apply your methods and your rituals to that. If you don't know, find out. That's why most of you guys are here. You guys are interested in filling your mind with information and being able to organize it and apply it to what it is that you want to profit on. Read scripts and role play. It will come naturally later. And that's if you don't know something or you're afraid to talk about something, find the scripts for it. All you have to do is Google it. You'll find scripts. Doesn't mean that you're going to memorize them. What it's pretty much giving you, the scripts are giving you is the method. And if you simply role play that script, it will eventually evolve into just being yourself. And that's all that I personally expect, is just be yourself. Don't try to be someone else, because if you try to be someone else, believe me, you're going to look like all thumbs. Because not all of us are good ventriloquists. Not all of us are good, what's it called when you imitate someone else, right? We're not good at that. Just be yourself. If you be yourself and you educate yourself on what it is that you're talking about, you will simply be better. You'll be a better you, put it that way, okay? You want to celebrate your individuality. Learn to handle rejection. That right there is definitely top producer activity, okay? Not only are they not taking no for an answer, okay, but if they get a no, to them it's a maybe, okay? And even if it's a maybe and it's just a flat out no, they just move on to the next guy. They don't let it get them down. Don't succumb to the no's. Learn to handle rejection. That's what that means. Get a coach, mentor, or trainer. There's me for technical training. You have David Plummer out there doing the motivational stuff. Actually, each and every one of you, right, could potentially even coach or mentor somebody in something. And it's kind of the same thing, the reverse. Learn from the people and the things around you. Invest in your business. You get a commission check, always a good idea to think about where you would like to invest to make that money work for you. Learn to speak to strangers frequently. And I don't mean kind of in a creepy way. What I mean is just to be friendly, right? Be friendly with people that you come in contact with and start up a conversation. And it could be about football. It could be about the weather. It could be about, I wouldn't talk politics, but it could be really about anything that's superficial, right? But if you learn to talk to strangers frequently, it becomes more of a common thing for you, and it becomes easier now to pitch whatever it is that you're doing, right? use technology as a secondary source, meaning that you're not relying on technology to communicate to those same strangers. Do it yourself. Be an individual. Be a professional. Let's see, what'd you say here, Robert or Sully? Be yourself because everyone else is taken. Okay, that's actually a good point, right? Remove physical and mental obstacles. Okay, so this is just a quick short story. Is anybody here in the group know how to train fleas? I would venture to say that nobody does, but then again, I would venture to say that all of you do, right? There is, let's say you have 4 or 5 fleas on a table, and they can jump. Let's say when they jump maybe 3 or 4 feet before they land again. But if you put a bowl over the top of those fleas, every time they jump, they hit the top of the bowl, and they can't go farther than the 3 or 4 feet. They maybe go 6 inches now, right? At a certain point, the fleas will stop jumping so high that they hit the top of the bowl. Anybody tell me what that is? Why do the fleas stop jumping and hitting the bowl?
Mental obstacle.
I'm sorry?
It's a mental obstacle.
It is a mental obstacle, but it's called complacency. So that's let's put a word to the activity. Okay, it's called complacency, and it happens to all of us. And this is the reason why I say that you all know how to train fleas. Doesn't it make sense that if you put a bowl over fleas, over time they will stop hitting the top of the bowl? Can anyone tell me why an elephant just doesn't take off at the circus? So they have them at the circus, you know, they're kind of leading them around with a stick. The elephant is the biggest land dweller known to man. I would say that most are hard pressed to stop it unless you shoot it. Why is it not just taking off? The elephant has become complacent. And the reason why is because when they're little, they actually put a stake in the ground, and they put a chain around the elephant's ankle, and the elephant can't go much farther than the chain. So what they do at some point is they take the chain off, but they don't remove the shackle around the elephant's ankle. The elephant always believes that it's chained to the stake. It's called complacency. Has anybody heard that before?
I have not.
But it's true. That's how they get the elephant not to take off. And if you look at an elephant, it usually has the shackle around its ankle. And the reason that's how they keep it that's how they keep the elephant not to take off. And they literally are guided around with a stick. So now the last example is, and actually there is one other one. We have a barracuda and we have a Spanish mackerel, which happens to be the barracuda's favorite fish to eat. And we put them in a tank, and we put a Spanish mackerel on one side of the tank, and we put the barracuda on the other side of the tank. Okay. The only difference is that in between the two fish, we're going to put a clear piece of plexiglass down the middle. And every time that barracuda sees that Spanish mackerel, it hits that plexiglass every single time. At some point, the barracuda will stop going after that fish. It will stop going after the Spanish mackerel. So if you remove the plexiglass, the barracuda will still won't pass that spot. It's called complacency. It happens to all of us. If we all think about the things that we're complacent about, we can remove those physical and mental obstacles. So I'm going to give you the crudest one that I know about complacency. And I probably should have typed it in here just to remember, but I just happen to remember this one because it's the crudest one. Has anyone heard the one about the frog and complacency?
Sit in boiling water.
Okay, so you have heard that one. So
Yeah.
allow me to tell the story, Mr.
Go.
Larry. All right, but okay, but Larry's heard that one. Okay, if you put a frog and you drop them into boiling water, okay, the frog will quickly jump out of the water. Okay, but if you put a frog into water, just not boiling, but just water, and then you put the fire on, the frog will die in the water, okay, because the water slowly gets warm, and then it slowly kills the frog. The frog became complacent in the water because it didn't feel the difference. It only felt the difference on the extreme. And that's what we call reactionary. It kind of flows, not only is it complacency, but it's also reactionary. It goes to the point of removing the physical and mental obstacles that are holding us back. And really the only reason is just in our head. If we think of every single thing, if I remove the bowl from the fleas, wow, they're only jumping 6 feet now, or 6 inches now. They're not jumping 4 feet. And that's because they became complacent. The elephant isn't taking off because it's unchained. The fish isn't passing that point. The barracuda is not passing that point because it thinks there's a piece of plexiglass there. It happens to all of us. That's the example there with removing physical and mental obstacles. So once we realize now that all of these qualities of a good manager or qualities of a top producer can become rituals, right? They're simply patterns of our physiology. Understanding now that, yeah, we're creative, moving, thinking, feeling beings, but we're also, you can kind of break us down scientifically in terms of our physiology, okay? And you guys are welcome to take a picture of this now, okay? But these are all rituals that we should be following every single day. That's that daily progression to wanting to reach our goal to success and ultimately profit. If you look at all the different slides that we went over today, yeah, there are different definitions and different topics, but they all kind of tie together. But these are all rituals or patterns of physiology. And if we get used to doing the things that are really just simply just a method to success, the residual effect is that commission check. The residual effect is being happy. The residual effect is getting what you need. That's what happens when you follow these rituals. Become ritualistic in this. I'm certainly not talking about becoming a fanatic, because that could happen. But tone it down a bit. Understand that we do have mental obstacles, and become ritualistic in these top producing activities. Any questions or comments on that? We're on slide 14 and 720. So there are a few slides that are quick on this one. I'll go through this one quickly because this one's a little bit less of a brain teaser and more of something that we actually do here as real estate agents. I'm gonna open my window here real quick. It's getting warm in here. It's funny, the weather, it gets like super cold and then now it's hot. right? So here I am wearing a hoodie and a sweater and all that stuff last week. And now this week I'm actually wearing what I normally wear, you know, California weather. So in 1976, a fascinating event referred to the Judgment of Paris took place. An English-owned wine shop in Paris organized a blind tasting in which 9 French wine experts rated French and California wines, 10 whites and 10 reds. The results shocked the wine world. California wines received the highest scores from the panel. Even more surprising, during the tasting, the experts often mistook the American wines for French wines and vice versa. 2 assumptions were challenged that day. The first was the hitherto unquestioned superiority of French wines over American wines. And, you know, that's just that ego thing, right? But it was the challenge to the second, the assumption that the judges genuinely possessed elite knowledge of wine that was more interesting and revolutionary. The tasting suggested that the alleged wine experts were no more accurate in distinguishing wines under blind test conditions than regular wine drinkers, a fact later confirmed by laboratory tests, which means that there is no such thing as a wine expert. So how does that relate to what we do? How does a wine example resemble the real estate industry? Anybody want to chime in on that? Because I hear this all the time and it drives me crazy. And it's because, you know, instead of being knowledgeable and doing all the things that we're talking about here in terms of success and in terms of being goal oriented and love the method, not the conclusion, all the things that we're talking about, what do real estate agents always go to? In my opinion and experience, most advertisements that I witness from realtors is that they are the best and top salesperson in the area. Some claim to be experts. And I would wholeheartedly question any realtor that calls himself an expert. You know what? I don't think you've ever even heard me say that about myself. And I'm pretty hard on myself, guys. I am. I'm super hard on myself. So much so that it drives me to make these presentations so I can share with you guys. But I don't call myself an expert, especially not on an advertisement. I did that once. It got me a lot of trouble. I did some expert witness work in the 90s, and where I showed up in court as a licensed expert. It wasn't in real estate, it was in appraisal, and it got me in trouble. So guys, shy away from that. Don't use that you're the top producer and you're, you know, the best salesman and you're the expert in the area. That's like a comedian going on stage and just cussing to get a laugh out of people. It's cheap. It's cheap. That there is no real estate experts, unless of course you're talking to what's his name, John what's his name, Gardelli. He's the attorney at PWR. I love that guy. Every time I see something that comes out, he just has really great presentations. Okay, and I always learn a lot from him. But even, I don't even think I've heard him say he's an expert. You know, he's just happy to be there and helpful and happy to be alive. I mean that in itself motivates me to talk to him or to listen to him, right? But the example here, okay, so in terms of qualities of a good manager, okay, if you are truly a good manager, you don't have to tell people that you're an expert. You don't have to tell people you're a top producer, because you're doing well in all the other categories. And how many was there? Like 40 or 50 categories that I came up with qualities of a good manager. Not one of them said expert. So in my opinion, guys, don't advertise that. But the point of the wine tasting is that there's no such thing. There really is no such thing. You're either good or not. And if you're an expert, you shouldn't be doing real estate. I mean, just in my never to be humble opinion. Any questions or comments on that? See, these are all good nuggets, man. This is what I say is that when I leave here today, I'm just like crazy motivated, right? So I'll read this one real quick because this kind of goes along with what I was saying earlier, but it also goes to say that it takes a long time to be an expert. So how then can you tell when you're dealing with a genuine expert? Real expertise must pass 3 tests. First, it must lead to performance that is consistently superior than that of the experts or their peers. Second, real expertise produces concrete results, meaning that it's always constantly happening and it's good, you know, and quite frankly, I've seen some top producers that are very poor in their knowledge in real estate, right? So I wouldn't necessarily call them experts, even though that happens to be one of the criteria. Brain surgeons, for example, not only must be skillful with their scalpels, but also must have successful outcomes with their patients, meaning that their patients survive. A chess player must be able to win matches in tournaments. Finally, true expertise can be replicated and measured in the lab. As a British scientist, Lord Kelvin stated, if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. The estimated time to be an expert is 10,000 hours. So the majority of us haven't spent that much time in doing what we do. And quite frankly, we're not even really interested in being experts at what we do. We just want to be good at what we do. So this is why the presentation is how to become an expert. I didn't call it that. I called it qualities of a good manager. Let's just manage our companies properly. We're the CEOs of our own company. Let's manage them properly. And let's just be us. Let's do the best that we can with what we have. And that's the whole watering of the pot plants. Everything's around us. Yes? Any questions or comments on that? So now we get on to Mr. Clint Eastwood, right? Improvise, overcome, and adapt. So these are definitions, okay? So improvise, to compose, recite, play, or sing extemporaneously. Oh, I actually got it out. To make, invent, or arrange offhand. To make or fabricate out of what is conveniently on hand. So improvise meaning let's do with what we have. Let's not sit there and wish that, oh, if I had this, I could do better. If I had that, I could do better. No, do with what you have and water that plant and the seed, right? With the soil and the sunlight, water it. So then you get the growth that you want. Improvisation. Overcome. To get the better of or to overwhelm. So now this kind of flows over a little bit to competition. We want to be able to get the better of our competition and we want to overwhelm them. Mainly with what? Actually, it's mainly with exposure, not with physical violence, not with threats, not with any of that stuff, with exposure. Most of us can name somebody that has a lot of exposure and has overwhelmed their market with advertising. And we can name a few of them because we see them all the time. That should be you. Overcome and adapt. To change your behavior so that it is easier to live in a particular place or situation. To change something so that it functions better or is better suited for a purpose. And to change so that it can be presented in another form. So improvise, use what you have, improvise in terms of being able to settle instead of wishing for other things. Overwhelm goes along with being consistent and persistent. Remember we talked about that on the top producers. And adapt. We have to change the way we are and the way we think based on our environment in order to fall into the mold of meeting our goal and to actually get into the ritual and the method of what makes you successful. Improvise, overcome, and adapt. It was a Clint Eastwood saying. It's not in a movie, but these are the definitions. I don't know if it's Wikipedia, but Webster. Let's say it's Webster. Any questions or comments on that? So practical versus actual application. It is important to be professional. How many times have we heard this statement? But what does it really mean? To be a professional is simply to get paid for what you do. But I think it may be a little deeper than that in our understanding of the word professional. Two components exist in our behavior, practical and actual. Our practical actions have to do with what we learn. And our actual behavior is what we do. So practical meaning what we learn, what we inhale through our ears, right? Our actual behavior is what we do. They are not always the same, as some of the things we learn do not show up in our actions. We can tough through this once we recognize it exists. So here's an example, okay? I know I should be eating other things, so that's our practical, because we know we should be eating other things, but what do our actions say? But I don't. So that's the actual application. Here's another example. The way I do this is to say to myself, it's a choice. Just do it. So this is Anthony Robbins' quote. If you talk about it, it's a dream. So it's practical, right? If you envision it, it's possible. But if you schedule it, it's real. That goes along with practical and actual applications. So actually just knowing something and knowing that you need to do it isn't enough. You have to apply it actually to where it's real. And it goes along to what I always tell some of the guys that I work with: make the appointment. That is your goal with every single person that you talk to. Even if it's just to drink coffee, make the appointment and then show up. Apply the qualities of a good manager. Brush your teeth, wear a suit, smell good, all of the things that we talked about. Be honest, be respectful, be cordial. There are so many other things that we could talk about in terms of qualities of a good manager. But it goes along with what Tony Robbins said here. But if you schedule it, it's real. I took that quote out of a CD that I have. But it goes along with the practical and actual application. We all know what we need to do, but we just aren't doing it for whatever reason. We're not actually applying it. So what do I say? Just do it. What does Nike say? Or is it Nike? Just do it. Right? Just do it. Any questions or comments on that? So we're on number 20 now. Technical versus tactical training. What you see will be implementing 3 types of training. Technical, which involves understanding and using the contracts, disclosures, and reports involved in the transaction. So this is kind of flowing over now to, because we're at the beginning of the year. I usually do the qualities of a good manager at the beginning of the year, and then we kind of get into the rest of the training, which is tactical and technical. So I use the word tactical. I use the term aggressive negotiations. It involves knowing the eccentricities of a transaction and understanding how to aggressively advocate for your client. Because remember, we're just facilitating, right? We're not doing the transaction for our client, but we are facilitating. We're not making those decisions. The tactical training comes in now, whereas it pretty much shows us how to get business and then how to aggressively negotiate. That is the gist of most of the training. And finally, marketing. We will be calling it guerrilla marketing to illustrate our intense passion for it. create a group team of associates and put ideas together that work and profit. So now we won't be doing that personally, but it's more of a suggestion that if you do, you should have a team of people that you work with. And it isn't necessarily mean that you're going to be doing the same thing. You might have an inspector, you might have a lender, you might have a title guy, you might have an escrow person, you might have all of these different people that are related in the industry that are part of your team or your group, okay? But you guys should be able to sit down and have a cup of coffee and shoot around ideas. Larry and I do that. And guess what? This is what has come out of it, are these Zoom meetings, because I was doing these meetings personally before. Robert and Sully used to come to the personal meetings, right? Some of this is review for them. So OnPoint TC has a list of categories and topics along with proven techniques that once applied will help you reach your desired goals. Now, some of you that have been around for a while, I actually have probably, I want to say it's about 10 to 15 pages of how to get listings. It's about 35 different ways on how to get listings. I've sent that out. That is just something that is a resource from myself or OnPoint TC, okay? But this is, this particular slide simply is talking about the stuff that will be going on for the rest of the year, and also that we've already recorded and is on the YouTube channel. Okay. So let's do some final thoughts. This presentation is packed with good information, maybe too much, but not too good. This is a correlation of a lot of different education that I've learned over the years, all in one good presentation. Is there even more? Yes, of course. There's a lot more. I wanted to share the concepts that, to me, have meaning in our business. Understanding that it is not rocket science to become a top producer, or that you have to have some kind of magic, because you don't. You know, I always call it magic sprinkles. These agents talk sometimes they talk to the sellers like they have some kind of magic sprinkles that they'll be able to sell the property, which in the current environment may be true, but the majority of my career has never even existed, that they can sell their property for $50,000 over what it was listed for if it was listed at market value. No agent has those magic sprinkles because nobody's that stupid, right? Right now, people are just are being drugged with low interest rates, and even those interest rates have gone up, and now we're not really seeing that activity anymore. So it's not the agents. The agents don't have that magic, those magic crystals. So it doesn't take that. It takes those rituals that I'm talking about. It takes the goal setting, and it takes the removing those mental obstacles that we talked about. It is simply a combination of imagining what is possible, wanting it bad enough, setting goals, and working hard to get it. It is understanding that things we need to be successful have been gifted to us by our surroundings, and the understanding that it is not just going to fall in our lap just because. Let me tell you guys, the majority of agents that I have met over my career think of that. As soon as they get their license and they get a business card, they sit at their desk thinking that business is going to fall in their lap. It's not. You have to act on it. You have to act on it. Advertise, expose yourself, talk to people. You need to act on it. If you don't do that, guys, you're in the wrong business. It is sacrificing sometimes what we have to do versus what we want to do. It is managing yourself by improvising, overcoming, and adapting to the environment. That's a pretty powerful statement. It is managing yourself by improvising, overcoming, and adapting to your environment. In short, managing yourself into prosperity. The difference between the haves and the have-nots. And I know a few of you may know what that is, but most of you may not. But it was an article that I read, wow, years ago. I want to say 30 years ago in the LA Times. and somebody had categorized most people as either being a have or a have not. And if you're a have, you're probably well-to-do, and you have money, and you have other things, right? And you have the have-nots that simply sit there and complain about it, right? So I use that analogy. So any questions or comments on the presentation? Just a quick overview on what we talked about earlier. On every email that I send out, there is a link. This is the link. So you don't have to necessarily take a picture of this unless you want to, okay? This link is in the email reminder that I send out every week. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, the link is there. You can click on it. If you simply subscribe on your YouTube account, you'll have it there to watch whenever you want, okay? Right now there's about 24 presentations on there. This one will be on there in the next couple of days. Do me a favor, guys, go on to the link and please subscribe. The more folks I have subscribed on there, the more credit I get for the channel, okay? It's free, obviously it doesn't cost anything. But if you guys have missed any of the trainings, they're all there to watch, just like what we did today. And at some point, when I do get the, my goal is to get to 52 presentations. This one here, I think it was number 14, but right now I'm on 41. And there isn't 41 recordings on the channel, but number 41 has to do with the Avid. There is a new Avid form out that came out December of 2021, as is there a lot of different forms have changed. The Buyer's Inspection Advisory, the California Consumer Privacy Act form has changed, along with the new RPA. So nicely enough, some of the newer presentations are going to cover those things along with home hardening. So I have the Avid presentation finished. I will probably be doing that one next week. So you guys don't want to miss it. Statutory, it's a really good presentation. But again, anybody that happens to miss it, you can go onto this link here. It's on the email that I send out every week, closer to the bottom. All you have to do is click on the link and subscribe, and you're all set. Okay. So that said, let's move on to affiliates and resources. Obviously, you've got my information. It goes up frequently during the presentation. Mr. Larry Christian with Old Republic Title. There's his phone number and email address. If you'd like to communicate with him, he's a very good resource when it comes to even getting business. If you talk to him, sit him down, have a cup of coffee, buy him lunch, and he can have that conversation with you. He'd be more than happy to help you guys. Mr. Liz Montes, she is a broker, and she also is a loan consultant and owner of ERAS Mortgage. She can help you with VA, FHA conventional loans, and is closing deals in about 25 days. So the lenders are privy to her, okay? Mr. David Plummer, which is a real estate trainer and motivator. And he has his free classes on Saturdays, but he does charge for his services during the week. And believe me, he will get you working and doing what you need to do, okay? And then there's Property ID, which is NHD reports. Shamim is a representative of Property ID, and you can contact her if you have any questions about any of that. But anyway, you guys, we are at 7:45, so I do apologize for going over time a bit. I'm a little raspy in the throat for talking so much, but I really do think we had a good recording here, a good presentation. Again, I'm not an attorney or accountant. I just like to share this stuff with you guys. I really do hope that this inspired, encouraged, and challenged you to go out and do what you need to do for yourself and for your families that I know you guys all deserve, okay? Everyone is worthy as an individual, okay? And there's absolutely no reason why you guys can't pick up a market share of the real estate business. Because let me tell you something, there were 8 or 9 people on this presentation. There will probably be others that we don't know that will be logging on to the YouTube channel to watch. Okay. But the state of California probably has to the tune of maybe 40 to 45,000 licensed real estate agents. And I would say that probably 10% of that is actually doing any business. So don't be scared by those numbers. If you simply get out there and ritualistically apply yourself, like we talked about in this presentation, you will pick up part of your market share that you deserve. All you have to do is apply yourself. That's it. There's no magic dust that anyone has, any realtor out there has. There is no magic dust. They simply just are following methods and rituals and qualities of a good manager. Ladies and gentlemen, I present you with qualities of a good manager. The recording is complete, finally. And next year, it might be a little different. I might add some more stuff. I know that there was a few things that I need to change on this presentation, but you guys are very welcome. Thank you, Victoria, for participating today. Any questions or comments before we sign off?
Thank you.
Oh, yes, Mr. Larry, thank you. Thank you for coming on. All right, well, Mr. Adrian.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for participating. Anyway, I will see you guys next week. On Monday, I'll probably send out the email for the Avid one that we'll be doing next week. Okay. Other than that, I'll be signing off. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Mr. Larry, what's happening?
Not much. We're good.
Okay. I saw your mic unmuted there for a second. Celia, thank you so much for coming on. Just so you know, I have one of your CDs here. Maybe we'll meet up soon, and I'll get that to you. Other than that, I will be signing off. Thank you guys for coming on.